Hi there, welcome to the Schwowin's Nest. My name is Sandra. Here on my channel, I love farmhouse decor, and I really love making something out of nothing. If that sounds like fun to you, I would love it if you could stick around and keep watching. Today, I have 3 brand new tumbling tower DIYs for you that are quick and not as hard as they look. Let's get crafting. I'm starting off with this plank from the Dollar Tree that I'm going to cut about a 7 or 8 inch piece off of, and then I'll cut another piece and I'm going to save that little pumpkin area for a craft later on in the year. I like to use my utility knife and score it a lot of times so I have a cut all the way through. You can snap it as well after 3 or 4 cuts, but then you've got to clean it up. So I just continue on this way until I get a clean cut right from the start. It took me a little bit to figure out the plan for my shape. I knew I wanted to do a half wall basket type look. And so I'm just figuring out here how large to make it and to make sure that all the blocks are evenly spaced because I don't want to have to cut anything. I'm going to use Aleene's tacky glue to apply the blocks to the board and to each other. And this will give me some working time, but they also set up fairly quickly, so I don't have to worry about pushing anything out of shape. I ended up switching over to a brush to apply the glue. That just worked out so much better because I could spread it easier. Now that I've got my first layer down, I'm going to stagger the blocks to make it look like a brick lay pattern. And this actually makes it look more like a basket. So you can see here that I'm just making sure that I get the second layer of blocks half and half on the first layer of blocks. And you'll see what I'm doing here in just a second. It's a little hard to explain, but I hope you get what I'm doing from what you see. For the third row, I'm going to start in the center, and that's going to help me line up the blocks with the first layer. So I'm just going to continue this process until I get the desired height. And I think I went about 6 inches high. And these tumbling tower blocks are the ones from the Dollar Tree, so they're the small size. Now I'm just cutting off the excess plank and I'm using my utility knife and scoring small sections. So you can see here that I'm just doing this one angle by the block. Then I'm going to turn it around and I'm just going to continue that cutting line straight off the board. I don't want to have to try and get the right angles when I have wood in the way. So this just is a technique that I've always used. I'm going to just be able to pull that off and then work on the next section. I'm just sanding down some of the edges and the corners to smooth out the bottom. There were a little bit of some jagged edges from cutting, so that will just make it look a lot more finished. I totally forgot to film how I got the backing piece on, but all I did was cut out another piece that was the same length as the basket and used hot glue to glue it on. Now I'm just marking 5 centimeters in from the edge, which is approximately 2 inches, and I'm just making a dot. I wanted to put a little bit of a spin on the backing. I didn't want to keep it straight, so I'm just going to be cutting out these angled pieces. Again, just using my craft knife to score the board and then snap it. Then I'll use my sander again to sand off any of the rough edges and also round the corners a little bit. I decided to stain the basket with some antique wax, but I am diluting it with some water, and that just helps it go a lot further and also makes it much easier to spread. So I'll just mix this up with my brush and then apply it all over the basket, front, back, inside out, bottom, you name it, it's all getting some stain. I'm using a small brush to get into all of the nooks and crannies. And look at how beautiful this plank looks with the stain on it. So kudos to Dollar Tree for giving us some natural wood pieces that are easy to stain and look beautiful. You could hang this basket on the wall just by using a sawtooth hanger. You could also just literally screw it into the wall if you needed to, but I decided to put some cork feet on it and make it rise up a little bit, and then you could use it for a planter basket or anything else and anywhere else. Welcome everybody to my channel. I hope you are enjoying the video so far. If you're new to my channel, I would love it if you could hit that red subscribe button. It really supports the growth of my channel. For all of you who keep coming back to support me, thank you. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. For this project, I'm going to be using the larger size blocks. I think I got these at Walmart. This is the comparison of the Dollar Tree block to the original. I'm still using Aleene's tacky glue, and this time I'm going to be stacking them together long ways. So you can see here, I'm going to be doing 12 across. So I'll have 2 rows of 12, and then I'm going to do 2 rows of 4 glued end to end. Instead of gluing them separately, I'm just going to continue gluing right onto my original piece. So these 4 will go across and glued onto the bottom of the row of 12. Then I'm going to do another row of 4. Here's what it looks like so far. The last thing I'm going to do is add another row of the 12 vertical pieces. These blocks have numbers on the end that have a little bit of a bump to them. They're actually indented. So I'm going to use my dry deck spackle and put a thin layer all the way across. I'm using the same antique stain and water mixture to stain just this horizontal row in the center. I want to do something different with the vertical ones. With the antique wax, the more water you have, the lighter it is. And if you wanted to go over it a couple of times to deepen up the color, that's totally an option that you can do. The more layers you add, the darker the stain becomes. Because these are some pretty wood pieces and you can see the wood grain, I'm going to just whitewash the rest of the tray. I just used a little bit of my white latex paint and added some water. You can see it's there in the bowl. And I'm going to go over probably a couple of times. I wanted to have a nice deep white color. Well, not necessarily deep, but I wanted it to look white because the first layer they turned kind of pinkish because of the tone of the wood. So I went over twice and sometimes in a few areas 3 times just to give a really nice bright whitewashed look. I'm going to use these little wooden car wheels as my feet for this tray. I'm going to hot glue them into the 4 corners, but I'm also going to then add another layer. I want these to be 2 high. To create handles for the tray, I'm using 4 of these little square cubes that I picked up at the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to glue them a little bit further in. You can see where I'm putting it there, kind of right on the seam of the first and second block. I'm going to put one on either side of the brown stained blocks, and then I'm going to glue another tower block right on top. And I'm going to have the tower block sticking out a little bit. So it's going to be flush on one end of the blocks and then it's going to be sticking out on the other end. I stained the handles with the same antique wax and water mixture and I did the feet. And now I'm just going along the outside edge here where I put the spackle on. I wanted there to be a little bit more contrast and just make it look a little bit more rustic. So what I'm doing with my finger here is just going to the top and taking some of that antique wax and just rubbing it over the edge so it looks a little more distressed. I came upon this a little bit by accident because some of the wax had actually bled to the top and I tried to rub it off, but then I liked how it looked, so I continued to do that. For this decor idea, I'm back to using the Dollar Tree tumbling tower blocks and one of the little wooden wheels. I'm going to glue 4 of the tumbling tower blocks in the shape you see here, and that's going to be the base to hold my vase. I'm just going to be using hot glue for this project. It's plenty strong enough for what it needs to do. I'll take one more of these tumbling tower blocks and stand it right on the end of each of the 4 tumbling tower blocks, and that will make sort of the cradle for the vase. I'm going to flip it upside down and do the same thing for the bottom, just adding one of the tumbling tower blocks on the edge of each of the 4. This little jar is from the Dollar Tree. I've had it in my stash for a couple of years. The orange on it was because a couple of years ago, I made it into a pumpkin decor, but now I'm going to just repaint it. I'm using the color Sheepskin by Folk Art, and it's a chalk paint. I'm going to give it 2 coats. Once it's dry, I'm simply going to put it inside the cradle portion of my little stand, and it looks absolutely adorable. I also added an extra piece of wood underneath to make it look a little taller. I hope you enjoyed my tumbling tower DIYs today. I think they turned out really beautiful. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you saw, please give me a thumbs up. That helps my channel get noticed more on YouTube and helps me grow. Don't forget to do all the other things. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Bye for now.